Hey everybody, day drinking with David. Sorry, trying to get set up here for a little session with my good friend Kiowa Bryan. And here she is. Let's add her up.
Hello. Let me adjust this a bit. How are you? Beautiful. Now I can't hear you, David, for some reason. Could before. There we go.
All right, I
Okay.
think we're back.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
it. I
God.
can hear everything now. It's a whole new world.
That's what happens when you leave your AirPods on the other side of the house and right before the IG TV starts. Kiowa,
Yeah.
so good to see you.
So good to see you too. It's been a long time,
Thank you
virtual or
so much
otherwise.
for being here.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
I'm going to slightly adjust my camera now that we have a new view so that I can be part of the show. How are you? It's been
Um,
so long.
I know. I've seen the back of K&L a couple times, but it's been a long time since I saw your face in person.
I
So
know.
it has been a long time, even though we live in the same city. So
It's shocking. I rest assured, it. You're the first person I want to see when this is all over because we have a lot of fun together, Kiowa, and I'm so glad you're here for
it's
a special
true.
day. Officially, it is. Isn't it some sort of rum holiday today?
Well, it's actually on Sunday, but so people can get properly prepared for Mai Tai Day on Sunday.
Anti day.
We are here to, yeah, make sure everybody knows how to properly get prepared for that. Because
Great, great. I am so glad to be here. Let me turn these around so we can see what we're doing. For anybody who doesn't know, Kiowa is uh, the one of the most knowledgeable rum people I know, and you know you've been in the game for a long time, and we're really glad to have you here to sort of walk us through your incredible portfolio and teach us how to make proper mai tai. So that's exciting.
yeah,
Um, tell us a little bit about the brands you represent and where Spirit Band comes from
yeah.
the wonderful rums they make.
Well, so we are a collection, a portfolio of rum from Martinique and St. Lucia. We started out with rum Clement in, I want to say, 1986. And then in 2001, we bought rum JM, which was about to go bankrupt and saved that from going out of business. And then in 2016, we purchased St. Lucia Distillers, which is the only distillery in St. Lucia. So that's really exciting because we really have the ability to kind of have a whole rum category, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing this is my 6th year. Before that, I was behind the bar for 15 years. I don't know if I ever met you when I worked at Evely still. I think I met you after I was gone from Evely, but
I think that's right.
yeah, I ran bars around Los Angeles for, 8 years probably. And before that, I worked at a sports bar in Jersey for 6 years. And that's where I fell in love with bartending and the spirits industry. And here we are today. So I fell in love with Martinique rum agricole specifically while bartending at a bar on the Sunset Strip that went through about 8 cases of vodka a week. So to have like 15 SKUs of rum agricole on the shelf is pretty asinine. And but it, as the buyer, I had the power to kind of curate that odd collection, and teach myself about that spirit. And as soon as I could, I just, saved up my money, bought a ticket to Martinique, learned firsthand what that culture and rum agricole, what it means to those people. And I've been trying to bring you to Martinique ever since. So
I know it hasn't happened. The first time it was Zika and pregnancy, and then I guess COVID and
I think you were having the kid the second time, so
yeah.
that didn't work.
Yeah.
Now we have this fun year. So
well,
it'll happen eventually.
Plenty of rum to drink, and rum is such an interesting category because the people in charge, as they say in rum, love to simplify it. And of course, rum is, when you say the word rum, it's like saying whiskey. Like, whiskey doesn't mean anything. It's a grain-based spirit, aged, or not. And rum is the same way. So there's such a diversity of rum, and the agricoles, which you mentioned earlier, are a very particular and regulated, one of the few heavily regulated rum industries. Well, countries that regulate their own rum industries, but usually to the advantage of the large producers.
Well, and because in the United States we have such a lovely authority that regulates our alcohol called the TTB, there is way less regulation in the rum category than there are in a lot of other countries, which is unfortunate, because if you look at the laws for rum within the TTB in the United States, there's 33 subcategories for whiskey, and in the rum section there is none. So it's just rum. Everything is the same. Everything tastes the same, which is so ironic because there's not a category that could be more diverse than the rum category. So
it sort of feels like someone was like, "This is too complicated. Let's ignore it. We barely make any rum here any longer. Give the Virgin Islands huge tax breaks, and we'll sell."
Right. Totally.
But,
well, I mean, and I would imagine, like, I don't know what your first rum experience was, but I know that, the only rum I knew that existed until I was in my mid-20s was Bacardi and Bacardi Limon. So, and props to Bacardi, because I can tell you that, like, on my 21st birthday, I planned a trip around Manhattan to go to have mojitos at as many bars that I could legally as I could, because Bacardi put so much money into campaigning the mojito. And so that's kind of, that style of rum, that column still rum from Puerto Rico and Cuba, and some of those countries are really the rum that Americans associate as being rum. Like, they think that's all rum, and it's so much more than that.
It really is. And that said, there is a place for those rum, and they're historically important, and they're important in certain cocktails. As you noted, my first experience with rum was Bacardi Limon before the junior dance, chasing it with Coke.
Yeah.
It was a horrible decision.
Right.
And when the first time I got serious about rum, it was also making mojitos. I'd gone on spring break, freshman year of college or junior year of college, or something like sophomore, to St. Croix, which, we actually went by the distillery, and the rum is cheap, and the mint is plentiful, and just drank mojitos the whole time.
Right.
And that was sort of the start of my interest in rum, and it really burgeoned from there. I've always loved, because I'm sort of a Francophile, I've always loved Agricole. That was sort of the first thing I sought out, like, the next time I was in Europe, because back then, you guys were around, but like, Clement was Clement's been sold in the United States for some time,
right.
And JM for that matter, but in not very available. And you guys have really been crucial in making it more prominent and distinguishing it from the other categories. I recommend this to all my rum producers when we talk about rum, and that's to not call this rum, to call it Agricole rum. If you're going to call it anything, or Martinique Agricole rum, even better. Because that gives the consumer an understanding that you're talking about something specific that differs in so many ways. And tell us a little bit about what makes Agricole special and different from other rums, not just because the French government decides what it is. There are specific things.
Well, I mean, as we were talking about before, so many people are conditioned to think that rum is that specific style of rum that is, you know, in a mojito and in a rum and coke made from molasses. Rum in Martinique and some other overseas department is classified as rum agricole. It is made from sugarcane juice instead of molasses. So, I mean, there is, you know, that all started because when the Caribbean kind of went into the sugarcane crisis happened in the Caribbean, and all of a sudden there was not the demand for sugar to be produced, to be sold and shipped to Europe. You know, at that time, there were people in Martinique and the French islands making what they called industrial rum from molasses, but then there were also these farmers making agricultural rum in like mobile stills from their farms, and they called that agricultural rum, and that was always from sugarcane juice from the fresh sugarcane, because they, you know, they didn't have a sugar refinery, so they didn't have molasses to distill. So that's where that split and that terminology kind of came from, because agricole just means agricultural in French. So at one time they were making both styles of rum: industrial rum with molasses, agricultural rum with sugarcane juice. And then when the Caribbean fell into crisis and that need for sugar production went away, they already had all this sugar cane. They already had developed a palate for this new style of rum. So they just cut out the process of making sugar and producing molasses and distilling that, and decided to just distill the sugar cane juice that was on the island. So, and that, you know, kind of spread that whole tradition within the French islands, especially the French overseas departments, kind of caught on like wildfire. But it wasn't until 1996 that we had an official AOC for Martinique rum agricole. And I mean, that's a whole nother passionate wormhole we could go down if there's time, but then I'd start shit talking some US rum agricole brands. So I don't know if we want that here, but
yeah, I always mention that when I see that here. I'm like, you put agricole rum on your label. I wonder if you can sell this product in France. They're like, no, you definitely cannot.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. That's all you need to say is you couldn't sell this, but you can sell it in America, but you can't sell it in Europe, because, you know, the laws there are actually structured for the rum category. So even though there's a lot of these wonderful islands with different cultures and different styles of rum that do have rules within that island, they're only being honored, you know, they're being honored in other countries, but they're not being honored in the United States.
Well, it's like selling a bottle of Cabernet Merlot blend from California and calling it Bordeaux. You know,
right.
It's just not.
Well, here's an interesting loophole with that, which we are trying to facilitate and make work to our advantage, is that with some of the other AOC spirits within the TTB, there is just kind of a asterisk, if you will, that's like, refer to the AOC law for cognac, refer to the AOC standards for Armagnac. And so it will be, it's still a big hurdle and pain in the ass to actually get this to happen. And we are working on it, and it's like pulling teeth. But for the rum agricole Martinique category, it will be much easier than for, you know, Jamaica or Barbados or any of those that aren't already identified by the TTB as something that is substantial and is already part of the TTB laws. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's generally, you know, countries that regulate their industry should be given the benefit of the doubt generally as to how these things are described, and also afforded the same level of protection for those particular products. So I think that's really a crucial thing going forward for the agricole. And listen, I think it's fine to describe it as sugarcane juice rum, or even agricultural rum, or
right.
agriculturally produced rum, implying that it's not using the industrial practices of refining rum. You know, because in a lot of ways, this does make a different rum, and it's a much more expensive product to produce for a number of reasons. You have seasonality in these rums where, you know, you can produce molasses rum all year. You can store molasses indefinitely, whereas
even sugarcane syrup you can store.
Is fermenting the moment you crush it. If you're not refining it, you better be fermenting it, or else it's going to be trash, you know, in a week. And so there are those things. And then there's, of course, the French aesthetic in terms of the élevage, which I think distinguishes it from a lot of other rum, which is either, statically aged perhaps, or even a mix of static and Solera style and these various different styles. Of course, these are all column stilled, and a lot of times we compare the distillation somewhat to like Armagnac, because we talk about Armagnac being column stilled, and there are of course various levels of size of still, but generally these are just these are cane open fermentation, pretty fast wild fermentation, and then distilled up to 60. 62, 63?
Legally 65 to 75.
65 to 75?
Yeah, I feel like we generally are around 72 degrees for all of our spirits. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I will say that with as far as like fermentation goes, even that is like the column still regulated by the AOC. There are now some small Martinique distilleries opening up that have pot stills, but they'll never be able to put AOC on their label unless the AOC laws evolve and change, which I don't see. That is such a important law in the AOC right now. I don't see that changing anytime soon. But yeah, it does surprise people, being that it is a column still rum with that much flavor. But it is a specific type of still, very similar to an Armagnac still, and distilled to a lower proof. So all these factors contribute to, it wasn't a fluke. It took 20 years for the AOC to actually get approved. So they started putting that together in the 70s, and then in 1996 was when they actually finally decided on what the rules were going to be. So it's not like something.
Wow, was that late? I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was so late. That's ridiculous.
Right. I mean, and things have definitely changed. Like fermentation has gotten longer. It started out at like 72 hours max. Now it's 120 hours max. Resting, which is a huge part of white I mean, in Martinique, nobody's drinking. Yeah, in Martinique, everybody's drinking white Blanc Agricole rum, high proof, 100 or 110 proof, in a tea punch, which we may make later. But I know the American mentality is like aged spirits, brown spirits. It's completely reversed in Martinique. So 95% of spirits drinking in Martinique are white, high proof spirits. And once in a while you'll have a cigar with a aged rum after dinner, but for the most part, I mean, you're drinking champagne, French wine, and tea punch with 110 proof rum. So because white rum is such a prominent part of the consumption there, I think that resting is important with Martinique Agricole rum more than some other spirits categories. A lot of people don't talk about the resting, but that just gives the molecular structure of the rum to incorporate and chill out and like mesh with the water that's diluting it over an extended period of time. So that is also an AOC rule. Like that used to be 3 months, and now 3 weeks is the minimum that you can do that. So it's constantly evolving, all the rules of the AOC, but not super drastically.
Someone's implying that I might be wearing a Giants shirt with a Dodgers hat, which is outrageous. No, this is just a shirt. Just by the way, internet. That's really interesting. So rested in tanks, so steel tanks and what have you. Do they oxygenate and or anything like that, or is it just left to be? Yeah, it is. It's not. It's not agitated really. It is oxygenated, but it is not like agitated and just left to incorporate gradually. And for most of Rum JM, they're resting for like 8 months at least, usually around 8 months in stainless steel. But it's just something that I feel like doesn't get talked about in a lot of spirits production often, and it's like a very important part of rum agricole production. And because people are drinking, people are not drinking aged spirit most of the time. And in Martinique, they sell rum in a box, which we call agricole,
which this is only, oh, this is 3 liters, but 3 liters of 110 proof Agricole in Martinique goes for about €8. So
Yum.
yeah, it's a little different than here. I wish it was that inexpensive. Actually, probably I don't wish it was that inexpensive.
It's way too dangerous.
Yeah, way too dangerous.
Very cool. Well, let's talk a little about the rums themselves. Tell us about Clement. This is obviously the largest and most important producer in Martinique. I'm tasting the VSOP because I just couldn't wait any longer.
Oh, there goes my mint from my garden. The only thing I haven't killed over the pandemic is the mint. I'll join you. I'll join you on that. So Clement VSOP, I brought out Clement and JM VSOP today just because it's very interesting to see them side by side because they are both both VSOP, so they're same aging designations as cognac. And so they're both aged in relatively the same way, 3 years in ex-bourbon and finished 1 year in French oak. And the reason for that, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners who are super smart, because your listeners are all super smart, the smartest of smart,
really are.
They already know this, so that I'm not telling them anything they don't already know. But when the difference, one of the differences between French and American oak is that French oak has a lot more tannins than American oak. So oftentimes in many spirits, but specifically in rum agricole, we'll put that 110 proof rum into the barrel, and then or 120 proof rum into the barrel, and then we'll kind of season it with that American wood because it has more of those like big buttery flavors but less tannins. And then after a couple of years, you transfer it into a French oak barrel because then it gets a lot of that complexity and spice and that tannic element that if you were to put a fresh spirit into that American wood, it would just kind of eat up too much of that tannic chalky quality, and it just wouldn't be even, and it would be a little bit too much. So both of these rums are aged like that, in that same way, 3 years in ex-bourbon, 1 year in French oak, but taste vastly different.
Is it typical that they would use the French oak is typically used though? Or are they using ex-cognac or it's new barrel?
Mostly it's new. We're not using, for either of these products, we're not using used cognac barrels. It's mainly new or second use Limousin oak barriques. Honestly, and that's for Clement VSOP, we're definitely using Limousin barriques, but with JM VSOP, we recently got a new master blender. She is like a mad scientist. She's in her 30s. She's very particular and kind of, not to say that before at JM, we were just kind of tasting and making sure the batches tasted the same and blending and tasting. But with Corrine on staff, she's very much like a mad scientist. Everything's very consistent. Everything is exactly the same. She has the recipes like very dialed in. And so she actually is that final year, she's aging the rum in different French types of oak of different sizes and then blending together. And she's super secretive about those specific recipes.
I have to say the JM does feel a little bit more polished than maybe the last bottle I had. I wonder if that's her touch, because Clement has a very powerful, almost floral, like orange blossom character to it, whereas the JM has more deep spice, a little, it's not hogo, because it's not that, these really are pretty soft and subtle compared to, the white rums, which get pretty funky.
Yeah.
They're both gorgeous. What are the biggest production differences between the two in terms of how it's made? I mean, I assume obviously Clement is a bigger facility, but is there anything else in terms of what they do that's different at all, or is it kind of same thing?
It's pretty similar because the AFC is so structured and whatnot. I will tell you that JM actually increased its production threefold in the last 2 years, so it is about the same size as Simone, which is where Clement is produced.
Right.
but all, we were able to do that with keeping all of the same procedures in place, because all of our estates are, it's all state grown cane at JM, and it's all around the distillery. So, one of the most crucial and important things about rum JM specifically is that we're able to harvest and crush a sugar cane and get it into fermentation tanks within an hour. And nobody else in the world, as far as I know, is able to have that fresh of a crush, which, as you said earlier, it's such an integral part to the flavor of the spirit, because once you cut the cane, it starts oxidizing immediately. It's like biting into an apple. It turns like brown right away. The different bacteria start forming and altering the flavor of that product, that sugar cane. So the fact that we're able to cut and crush and get in the fermentation tanks at JM within an hour is really substantial. Most of Martinique, they have a sun up to sundown rule. So it's kind of just, it's not an AOC rule, but it's just known on the island that like all the sugar cane you've harvested during the day has to be crushed and juiced by nightfall. So even still, it's a widespread practice to crush as soon as possible. And and in Martinique, I know they're previous to a specific gentleman pouring a bunch of unnamed rum down a sink and really raising awareness about the labor laws within the rum sector. We, in Martinique in the 90s, we started harvesting sugarcane mechanically. And at this point, only 5% of the sugarcane is not harvested mechanically. And I mean, aside from that, European labor laws, 6-hour work days, 21 day paid vacations, free education, free healthcare. Some things that America would be better with if we could figure out how to get that together, but we can't. So that's a totally different story. Anyway, that was a tangent.
Thank you. There's so many tangents in rum. It's never ending. I've of course moved on to the 110 proof white. This is sort of would be very typical for everyday drinking in Martinique. I had my first tea punch when I was 16 in Guadeloupe, dancing zouk in a rum bar or rum shack or whatever. Behind I went down for summer, we built a school, although we didn't really do anything, painted 3 walls, and had the most incredible time. But this takes me right back. I mean, there's just something so special about the right white rums. And I contend, I talk a lot about how mezcal is one of the only products that you can kind of achieve this level of complexity without any real intervention.
Yeah.
But I often have to put the caveat that white Agricole and certain other cane juice rums get pretty damn close, if not right there. This is gorgeous. Lots of that. Can you talk a little about the word hogo and what that flavor is? Because a lot of people sort of hear it and don't really necessarily understand it. Ogu is the root, the high flavors.
High, yeah. High. I mean, directly translated in French, it means high taste. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, which is so weird to me, that it's a word that is very much associated with Jamaican rum in my experience, even though it is a French terminology. I find people using it, associating it to Jamaican rum more. But yeah, to me, it's you can taste the product in this more than any other spirit. I mean, maybe pisco, but the direct aroma of smelling the sugar cane, just it's a sense memory, even if you haven't been there. You can see exactly where it came from. And that's why with Martinique Agricole rum, yes, Martinique is not very big. It's about the size of Los Angeles, but as you could taste in the GM to the Clement, there's vastly different flavor profiles. And it's astounding, even in a white rum that, like you said, is not messed with in any way. There's no age, there's no additives, how ridiculously different the flavor profile can be just from the east coast of Martinique is on the Atlantic Ocean, where there's much more aggressive wind and waves and weather, and then the west coast of Martinique is on the Caribbean side of the island. So like it's a Caribbean sea, which is like perfectly picturesque glass, like barely any weather. And those two differences, you know, you get a lot more salinity on the East Coast. You get a lot more fruity tropical notes on the West. Like, wow. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy, but it's very similar to wine. Like, it's crazy how different, like, such a small geographical area can produce such different flavors.
Well, maybe I'm outside of like the rum geek norm, but I've always sort of associated that word hogo with not only, I mean, the flavors you get in Jamaican rum, but something very particular about the agricoles in terms of this pungency, but not into that estery raw. I mean, this has ester, but it's not the same as a powerful Jamaican rum. It's these extremely pungent tropical fruit flavors that are so unique to Agricole. I guess obviously it's semantic, but and maybe it's because I heard it there first, but I kind of for some reason distinguish that from that ester.
Well, and it may be just that I heard that term first with Jamaican rum, so maybe that's what I'm associating with. But it's stuck with me for sure.
The rum appreciation world is just as complicated as the rum world itself. Let's not ignore that.
Don't get me started on that.
Someone's asking how many types of sugarcane are used in these various rums.
So within the AOC of Martinique, it's interesting. We used to have only 12 varieties of sugarcane we were allowed to use, and then the rules changed. I believe in 1996, when the original document came out, it was 12. The laws have adapted so that now there's basically like a 4-year grace period where you can try to grow a strain of sugarcane, and then if it's approved after 4 years by the AOC, they'll add it to the list. So at the moment, we have about 15 varieties we're allowed to use. In rum JM specifically, we're using 5 types of sugarcane, 3 from Barbados and 2 from Réunion. You want to get super nerdy, they are Blue, Pie, Rosso, Rouge, and one that doesn't have a name. It's just called R579. In Rum Clement, it's a little more complicated because we do buy from farmers. It's not all estate grown. It's all farmers around the vicinity on the east coast of Clement. But it does change slightly from year to year depending on what the farmers are growing and which farmers in that area we buy from. So it could be from 5 strains to 11 strains depending on the year. So, cool. But yeah, it is pretty cool. I mean, the sugarcane thing, I love the romanticism about the different varieties of sugarcane. I think it's beautiful. The truth is that you will grow the sugarcane that grows the best in the environment on that part of the island you're in. So we grow those 5 types of sugarcane by Rum GM because it is in volcanic soil that is at a higher elevation that does well in that climate. There are some, blue cane is more aromatic than Rosso, but the number one reason you're going to grow a type of sugarcane in an area of the island is because that's where it's going to grow well. If there's a lot of sand in the soil, only certain varieties are going to grow well in that area.
With any agricultural product, yield is a huge factor. So if you're not growing the right especially since you're distilling it, it's not like wine where you want concentration in the actual product. It's in the actual base product itself. It's much more like distilling brandy, where higher yield per acre is going to give you ultimately a better product because you're going to have more product to age over time. Very interesting stuff, Kiowa. Well, you want to teach me how to make a Mai Tai?
Yeah, absolutely. As we were saying before, it is Mai Tai Day on Sunday. I know holidays are abomination sometimes. Yesterday was Whiskey Sour Day, and I think Hug Your Dog Day or something. But this is a real holiday on Sunday because there was a Mai Tai Day in June, you might remember. That one is false. The Mai Tai Day on Sunday is actually because the Mai Tai, as invented by Trader Vic, was created in August of 1994 in Oakland. And the city of Oakland actually had a ceremony and, certified that August 30th is official Mai Tai Day. They celebrate it in Oakland. That's where the Mai Tai was created.
God. I hate those fake Mai Tai Dayers. They're the worst. Come
Makes
on.
me so angry. I'm like, why are you posting this now? You have to wait.
Although, who needs a freaking excuse to drink a Mai Tai? Let's be honest.
It's true.
Good every day.
Yeah. I mean, if we're being honest, if I'm not drinking a tea punch or here's one for you, my new favorite cocktail, a 50-50 martini with unaged Agricole. If you want a very specific spec, my favorite spec is a half ounce of Fino Sherry, half ounce of Blanc vermouth, half ounce of dry vermouth, 1.5 ounces of, 110 proof since you're doing a 50-50, and then a bar spoon of Suze with a lemon twist. Perfect.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm going to do that later.
Perfect.
I think I have all those ingredients. I'm going to get my ice. I'll be right there.
Perfect.
All right. Icy, icy, ice.
So I will just briefly tell you what we're going to make this with. So the original Mai Tai was made with the 17-year-old J. Ray nephew, which is a Jamaican rum. And obviously, over here. Obviously, a 17-year-old rum didn't last long. And, once that stock was depleted, Trader Vic decided to blend rums to find what was the closest version of creating that J. Ray nephew. So he blended Jamaican rum and aged Martinique rum. So, first of all, I am going to, I don't know if you pre-juiced.
I have.
There we go. Still, I don't think.
Follow directions. If anything, I follow directions nicely.
Well, I'm gonna juice a lime in this shaker tin. Generally, a lime is about an ounce, depending on how big of a lime you have. So, one lime. You might want to save. I didn't tell David this, so he's not gonna have the perfect Mai Tai. If you want to do the traditional way that it was done back in the day, you save your spent limes and you throw them on top as a garnish for some extra color. And then we are going to do, oh, look at you. So clever.
All over it, Kiowa.
We're going to do an ounce of, so we did 1 ounce or the juice of one lime of one lime. That's the end. And then we're going to do 1 ounce of plum.
Kiowa? Hello? Uh-oh. Have we lost Kiowa? Bummer. She's going to be right back, I'm sure. Fun. Everybody enjoying this? This is kind of different for us. Oh my gosh. Well, I can make a Mai Tai without Kiowa. I'm sure she'll be right back, everybody. Kiowa. Ah, cool. Let's do it. Okay. I'm ready for a drink, everybody. I just did. The ice is melting. The people are getting restless. Did you, Kiowa, did you see that? I added no clarify. Agreed. Lime juice and rum. You're halfway to tea punch. All you need is a little sugar. The Mai Tai, slightly more in depth. Let me try to add her again here. Ba ba boom. Is it happening? No? Come on. Come on, guys. Okay. One more time. Request. Request denied. There we go. Waiting for McClarify. The backup plan. Connect. Yay.
Hey.
Hey.
So Zan's gonna appreciate this. My phone just did a thing where it said the temperature was too hot and then it stopped working.
Come on.
That's a new one because Zan Kong from Worthy Park and I were doing an Instagram live and my laptop broke, like it started frying and it got too hot and then it just died forever. I had to buy a new one. So
that is outrageous. I look great backup plan though. Good to have Dan around, huh?
Right? I guess. I mean it did that thing where it's like temperature too hot. You can only dial 911. I'm like, if you can text him.
I haven't seen that in the wild in a long time. That's funny. My phone is totally broken. I can't believe I've gotten through this entire thing without it yelling at me.
I need to use headphones most of the time, but anyway, here we are, halfway through a Mai Tai. I'm so sorry I left everyone hanging. And you're right, Zan. That is why I keep Danny around. So backup plan was successful. Oh, yeah. Where are you at? What'd you do without me? Did you put rum in there?
I drank a little rum. That was it.
Okay.
No, I haven't put anything. You're going for the Clement VSOP. So how much of that? Another ounce?
Yeah, let's do an ounce.
This goofball like shaker of mine doesn't actually have an ounce measure. It's either an ounce or an ounce and a quarter, or a half ounce or an ounce and a quarter.
I think an ounce and a quarter is fine.
There, you're right. Can't hurt.
And then, if you have some Jamaican rum on hand to do a traditional Mai Tai, such as this Worthy Park single state, which I happen to have for some odd reason.
I have some freaking old Jamaican rum I had a little sample of. I don't even know what it is.
That's 1 ounce.
1 ounce?
Yeah.
Great.
Or an ounce and a quarter if you only have a jigger with an ounce and a quarter on it. That's awesome.
Great. The perfect pour. Yummy.
And then we're going to put some orgeat in here. So a half ounce of orgeat. This is Giffard orgeat. Happened to have it flying around for some reason. The inside joke there is that my boyfriend whose phone this is sells Giffard and Worthy Park. So
I think it was my first day drinking, actually. He may have been
so long ago. That was in March. Jeez.
I think, March. It was like about 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
And
then lastly, we're going to put this shrub in there. Shrub with 2 Bs. The Martinique traditional holiday liqueur made with, oh no.
You know me.
No, this is a perfect. So we're going to put another half ounce in there. So really easy to remember. If you don't have any jiggers or anything at home, do 1 part each of the rums, 1 part lime, and a half a part of the 2 sweet things.
Beautiful. Easy
peasy. And then we're going to put some ice in there.
I have ice.
Give her a shake. And then put a little extra ice in there if you want. I think the problem...
Just go straight in with the shaken ice?
Yeah, just dump it all in there. I mean, if you have crushed ice, great, but come on, it's a pandemic. Whatever you've got in your freezer is...
I like crushed ice earlier, but I'm going to save it for... Here we go. Throw a little extra in there. There we go.
I picked a little mint outside, so there you go.
Got no mint.
You don't need mint. Like I said, it's a pandemic. Cheers.
Mmm. Oh, wow. Perfect.
So good.
So good.
So good.
Oh my God. That makes me so happy. Thank you for that. I haven't been doing the whole cocktail thing at home. I've just been drinking spirits straight because I'm feeling like lazy, and cocktails feel very social to me. Like I kind of hate, like my wife likes cocktails here and there, but like she's not often in the mood for wine. So like I don't like doing all the work just for myself, you know? But I like drinking with you, Kiowa. This is really fun. This is a solid Mai Tai too. Oh yeah, that's working for me.
Yeah,
the shrub really adds a nice little kick to it.
Yeah, it's got. So I mean, if I might plug the story of shrub real quick. So shrub in Martinique is with 2 B's is as opposed to a shrub that we're traditionally used to drinking in the United States with 1 B. Usually, people associate it with a fruit, sugar, vinegar syrup. Both came from the same reasoning. It was just to preserve fruit before refrigeration was developed. So in Martinique, you had rum, which was cheaper than vinegar, which we were using in the U.S. So basically, every year around the holidays, on All Saints Day, which is November 1st, all the families in Martinique get together and have a massive meal and celebrate. And then after dinner, the kids will gather around the dining room table and they'll peel citrus, because citrus is coming into season. Generally, it's oranges. And the child that peels the most perfect spiral of citrus then gets to hang it on the Christmas tree for the duration of the holiday season as like a trophy. Like, I want.
Oh, Kiowa, I want the rest of that story.
Technologically awful Instagram Live because Danny's phone is not set to stay on. So yeah, everybody gathers around the table, peels the most perfect thing of citrus, puts it on the tree, and then 2 weeks before, actually after that, they'll put the rest of the citrus in the sun to sun dry and dehydrate. And then just 2 weeks before Christmas, they will put the dehydrated citrus and whatever recipe for spices into a bottle of Agricole rum, put it in the sun to naturally infuse, and then mix it right before Christmas with more sugarcane syrup with Agricole rum, either aged or unaged. And then during Chante Noel, which is kind of like a cross between Christmas caroling and a block party, everybody gets together, sings Christmas carols, and swaps their family's version of shrub, which is, you know, a citrus spice holiday liqueur, and eats Christmas ham and Christmas pats, which are kind of like little French empanadas, and sings. And it's like a whole big festival for 2 weeks during Christmas time. And shrub is the center of it, as well as punch cocoa, which is like Martinique coconut eggnog. And yeah, so I mean, obviously it is a great substitute for your traditional orange liqueur, and it's perfect in a Mai Tai because it does have some of those spices, Creole spices, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, allspice, in addition to your traditional orange liqueur. So really goes nicely with almond as well, which is in the Mai Tai, in the orgeat, almond syrup.
No pineapple in the Mai Tai, guys.
No pineapple. No rum float. You can put a little nutmeg on top. That's cool.
That sounds fine. Yeah, just mix the rum in. No need to float it. Cool. Well, I'm going to drink the hell out of this right now. Should we do a quick tea punch so people understand what that is? Because that's an important cocktail. What do you serve that in? Is it usually, I mean, I'm used to having it in paper cups.
Totally. I mean, generally, yeah. If you go to any sort of like food court or whatever situation, anything casual, they'll serve it to you in like a paper cup or a plastic cup already made. If you go to a little bit, you know, more of like a sit-down restaurant, most of the time you'll see it in like a small cylinder glass like this.
Okay.
Just because and David knows this, it is something that's consumed throughout the day in small amounts. So it's like an aperitif. You know, if you have it for breakfast, which is perfectly acceptable and normal, it's called the décollage, which means to take off. If you have it, you know, around, I don't really do religion, but the hour of the Pope in the afternoon, it's called tea pap. If you have it dry with no sugar, it's called tea sec. If you have it, you know, with no sugar or citrus, it's called tea rude. If you have it before bed, it's called pété pied, which means foot breaker. So there's
well,
many ways.
If you name your drinks officially, then it's not alcoholism. It's just it's just tradition. Let me grab another glass.
Perfect. So there is no right way to make a tea punch. I'll preface this with, this is just the way, yeah, that works. This is the way I prefer.
Kentucky Derby glass.
What is that?
It's a Kentucky Derby.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Reminder that, you know, didn't get to do that this year. But yeah, the whole beauty of the tea punch is that there's actually a slogan for it, which chacun prépare sa propre mort, which I know this is backwards because Instagram, but each one prepares their own death. So you prepare it as you like it. If you want it a little sweeter, if you have a sweet tooth, you can put more sugar in it. If you want it a little drier, you don't have to. You can put more lime, less lime, whatever. This is how I prefer it. I take a lime, I cut a coin off about the size of a quarter, so I'm getting a good amount of the oil from the peel as well as the fruit in the middle. So it looks like this. And then I'm going to squeeze that into the glass. Drop it in.
I'm following along.
And then, you know, I've done a couple of these during COVID, and honestly, like, and even in Martinique, sometimes there's lime shortages, so people make them with lemons. You have grapefruits, you have whatever you have that's citrus, you can do it. There's no right recipe or wrong recipe. It's traditionally with lime, but and then you can either use a spoonful of sugar, simple syrup. You could use orgeat. You can, whatever sweetener. I have actual sugarcane syrup, which is just sugarcane juice boiled down. So you can put a bar spoon, or, you know, if you want a little sweeter, a little more. What my boss, Ben Jones, who is the great-grandnephew of Agricole Clement, like how he was taught by his mom in Martinique was, you just made that little green taco. You're going to fill up the taco with the syrup or the sugar, and then you're just going to pour the rum on top until it kind of covers the taco.
Taco covered.
And then you're gonna swizzle it. Whether, you know, in Martinique we have these lovely swizzle sticks that grow. There's on the swizzle stick tree, and each one of these branches has another stick that grows off of it with another 5 fingers. And then yeah, you want to swizzle it. It's like building a fire. A bar spoon works. A regular spoon. You know, whatever, chopsticks, whatever you have. And you want to get it a little, you want to get it incorporated. I mean, honestly, the sugar thing, if you go to, like, oftentimes restaurants will have a tea punch table, and it'll have bottles of rum, a plate of limes, various types of sugar, granulated and syrup, and then you make it yourself. What is hard to find is ice. The Martinicans will kind of shun you if you ask for ice. I was called a child at one point. Here's your ice. Voilà, enfant. Thank you. So, cheers. Chacun prépare sa propre mort. Do you speak French?
I do speak French.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I can't barely understand people in the islands, but I get close.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've been working on my French during the pandemic.
Good. It's a good time to learn things.
Right?
If you want to practice, you're welcome to give me a call. I'm happy.
You're going to wish that you never said that.
No, you're welcome. Listen, I try to speak French to my kid all day long, And he's like, stop speaking French. I like English. I'm like, tough shit, kid.
Well,
I like speaking French.
Keep doing that because I grew up 6 miles from Quebec, and I am pissed that I don't speak French. I mean, that's why I started like appreciating the language because I grew up near it. But like, I'm like, I'm like, I wish my parents had to like forced me to do what you're doing. So
He's getting the full thing. I think he's going to French school and everything. It seemed like an awesome decision until like distance learning for a 3-year-old in French, which means my wife doesn't speak French, so it was like, oh, I'm 100% in charge of this. That's awesome.
Well,
so that was a lot of work.
French was getting rusty. It's tip top now.
His French and my French are now about the same, so we'll see. He's pretty good. He'll pull some stuff out of his hat every once in a while. But yeah, it's a great language. And Kiowa, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm so sorry about all the technical difficulties that could ever gone wrong. But awesome. I guess we figured it out kind of.
We certainly did.
And yeah, make sure if you drink a Mai Tai on Mai Tai Day, you should probably tag K&L in it. And
oh yeah, please do.
That,
all of these wonderful rums are available. Although we have these single barrels that you sent me, which I'm gonna have to save for later because I'm gonna get wasted if we start tasting these. But all this beautiful rum is available, on the website. So get your rum ready for Mai Tai Day. And thanks everybody for coming through. Any questions for Kiowa before we let her go?
You can find me not at McClarify. You can find me at Rum with an H Muffin. So not the Instagram that it says here. But I think I'm going to put together a little Mai Tai video for you guys to post this weekend.
Please do.
So that'll be on the K&L Instagram, and you'll be able to find me there too.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, it looks like everybody's just throwing tons of thumbs up at us. So I think we'll say goodbye. I'm going to finish my tea punch, and I got a kid, got to deal with soon. So I think two drink maximum. What is it, Thursday?
That's the sweet spot though, right?
Feel good. I feel great.
Perfect.
Thanks,
well,
Kiowa.
thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in person again.
Yeah, I can't wait till we do this in person.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Man.
Ciao.
Bye.